delightful, loving, wise, integrous, adventurous, playful. Reverend Sandra von Gillenband is our guest speaker today. We are so grateful to have her here. I want to tell you a little bit of the facts about Reverend Sandra, since this is her first time speaking here at Unity on Greenville. Ministry has begun for her more than 30 years ago, and her spiritual journey began in 1974 when she attended her first study group at Unity in the Virgin Islands. From that very moment, she felt that metaphysics was a way of life and a way to continue moving in and through her own world and seeing the world in a new way, as it is for many of us. She's been in faithful service to 3 Unity churches in Texas, and that's where we met. That's where we began our journey together. Though she stepped away from full-time ministry into what we call retirement ministry, although that's not a real thing, Sandra's heart for service continues as she graciously shares her wisdom and her warmth as a guest minister throughout South Texas and the scenic hill country. Having just moved, we're so grateful, to Carrollton, Texas. She and I didn't even know we were on the same route, moving in the same direction at the same time. Outside of ministry, her family is her greatest joy. She adores her grandchildren and great-grandchildren and delights in exploring the underwater world in scuba with her son. She's an adventurer. She loves to travel. She's a fiber artist. Does anyone know what a fiber artist is? You're going to know more about it as she brings fiber art to our community at some point. She pours love into every piece she crafts, celebrating the beauty of life and spirit in all she does. Now here's a few things that are not written. She's like, what are you going to say? You've never met a mermaid, probably. We're talking amazing feats of depths of water and oceans. That is her passion. That's where she goes. And she's fully alive when she's in the ocean, swimming and scuba diving. And the photography is brilliant. Also, whenever I came into Unity, we had a time when we went and did internships. And my first internship was with Reverend Sandra. And that's where I met her. And that's where I learned some key spiritual lessons that would guide me forward in my journey in ministry. And since then, we've served in several committees, not always the easy committees for our organization, but she's a delightful love, and we're so grateful to give her a warm Unity welcome here this morning, Reverend Sandra von Gillenband. Bless her with me.
Thank you, Reverend Doug. What a blessing it is to be here with you. And thank you, Reverend Barbara, as well, for opening your heart and your love, and Rachel for your music, and George for your daily word reading, and for the prayer this morning. Thank you all for welcoming me to this community. It's a very unusual thing to make a change, as great as I felt like mine was, and y'all just welcomed me, so thank you. And needless to say, y'all know how much fun Doug is, so you know that we've had a fun journey. I can remember us making some calls to some chaplain calls, and just what a light you were to people. Yeah. So what I also know is that sometimes we get so busy that we fail to notice how we got from point A to B. Anybody ever arrived somewhere and you thought, I wonder what streets I took. I wonder how I got here. You know, if I didn't have a GPS, I wouldn't be anywhere. But we fail to pay attention, and we just go along. And then we wonder. We wonder what it's about and why we're not more fulfilled, at peace, experiencing more joy. I don't know about any of you, but that happens to me sometimes. But when I move with intention, when I find that place of recognizing truth, everything starts to change. In a world that often rushes past the sacred, I invite you to pause, to take a pause in your life, to breathe, to remember that the divine is not only in the mountaintop moments, not only the mountaintop moments, but in the quiet steps that we take each day. Those very quiet, unassuming moments. Sacred. When we move with intention, when we awaken to the truth, when we know that each moment is a portal to a higher consciousness, we begin to experience a greater peace, a greater sense of who we are, of what we are. You recognize that you are a divine expression. You are a divine expression of God. Do you recognize that? Because many times in my life I get busy and I forget. I forget. And I'm sure many of you do the same thing. So, what is a higher consciousness? And what do we experience when we become aware of that higher consciousness, which is a moving beyond our limited self-perception and our ego? That's higher consciousness. We move beyond our ego. Not that the ego is bad, but when we get past that, to be in our holiness, we start to experience a greater connection with ourselves, with others. We suddenly have an intuitive sense that we may not have had before. In life, we find that nature starts to move more gently, more lovingly. We begin not to live just from our minds, but from our souls, from our hearts. You know what that feels like, right? When you have that moment that you're fully in your heart and you know it. And all the mind chatter goes away. The mind chatter just disappears. You're in your heart. You're having this wonderful feeling of who you are as that divine expression. Eric Butterworth reminds us that the whole of God is present in every moment in space and every place in space. So God is not waiting for us to get to the mountaintop. God is not waiting to be summoned from some special sacred place. God's right here, right now. God is in every step we take. God is in every breath we take. God is. Charles Fillmore says, let the God within you express itself through you in the world without. That is to say, what we feel inside, that love, that divinity, let us express it. Let the world see it. I know if I asked any one of you, you would say, what I really want is to be a divine expression, a loving expression. Well, I say be it. I know that that's where y'all are and that's who you are because I experience it. But there are times that out in the world it might not feel so easy. Might feel a little challenged as that person cuts you off on the highway. One of my early teachers told me when we get cut off, instead of cursing or instead of making some bad remark about the person, to say, I bless you. And you know, you can say that with such energy. It's kind of fun. I bless you, as you just cut me off. I bless you. Myrtle Fillmore echoes the truth about every moment. She says, I am a child of God, and therefore I do not inherit illness. Now, she is not just talking about physical illness. She is talking about the wholeness of who we are. We experience and receive the wholeness of God in each step we take. And when we do it with intention, we begin to feel a new sense of peace. So when we honor our journey, step by step, we align in truth. Step by step. Mark Nepo, a poet and a spiritual advisor who is also an author of many books, writes, to listen is to lean in softly with a willingness to be changed by what we hear. You know, in those quiet moments of meditation, in those quiet moments of reflection, we lean in. We're going to hear. There's no doubt in my mind, you will hear that divine guidance. And I'm telling you, you don't have to wait until you're in your room in that wonderful chair, the music's on, you've got all your books around you. You can do it in every moment. You can do it at every stop sign. Every stop sign. I lived in San Marcos for a while, and I'm telling you, San Marcos has the longest red lights. You get to a red light, you're going to be there. And what I learned was, rather than be annoyed at all those red lights, I could stop and pray. I could use that time to remind myself what I was really about. So we can do that. We can lean in to Spirit, to our own inner wisdom. We can get into life's rhythm, sacred rhythm, to walk in grace. We can get into that moment of walking in grace. We can get into life walking in grace. And then we have to remember that grace isn't something we have to earn. It's not something we have to do. Grace is about recognizing and receiving. Grace is all around us, in the energy that's all around us. Grace is. We don't always see it, okay, I don't always see it. I don't always recognize it. When I stop and I breathe and I go, oh, grace. And sometimes I say just that. I just go, grace. Ah, grace. Especially when things are kind of annoying. I say grace. So we have an opportunity to live in a limitless potentiality. Eric Butterworth says, we are human in expression, but divine in creation and limitlessness and potentiality. Limitlessness. You get that? You get how big that is? I mean, it's huge. It's forever. We can just dive in. Oh, you want to talk about diving? I love scuba diving, it's true. But we can dive in and we can make the moment be important to us. We can make the moment with intention. We can take the moment with intention, recognizing that we are part of the divinity of the world. So if we walk in grace, we recognize that it's not earned, that it's recognized, and we can fill life with it. Charles Fillmore reminds us that the value of service lies in the spirit in which you serve. Now, we all know that in the church, service is pretty important, right? Do you do it with the love in your heart that you feel for this community? I suspect you do. And that is that place that is sacred. When you are walking in the spirit of love as you serve, even the smallest, teeniest, tiniest act is done with love, and it is holy. So, I want y'all to think of something you do here, just some little something that you do, and recognize how holy it is. It is all holy when done with love. Mark Nepos says, the extraordinary is waiting quietly beneath the skin of that is ordinary. Isn't that beautiful? It's waiting right there. All we have to do is become aware. So years ago, there was a young lady named Anna, and she had been through a time in her life. She had had grief, she had had struggles, she was just struggling. So she decided she would go to the mountaintop. She would take a hike, she would go to the mountaintop, and she would clear her head. So she's charging up the mountain. And she notices that it's really rocky, and there's all kinds of things that get in her way. And she's struggling even in this walk. But she's charging ahead. And she sees a little boy ahead of her. And she notices that he's going really slow. And she gets closer, and she finally catches up. And she says, aren't you trying to get to the mountaintop? And he went, oh, I am in this moment. Every step is the mountain. And if I just wanted the mountaintop, I would miss all this beauty. I would miss each step that is filled with flowers and rocks and sun beaming down on the rocks in wonderful patterns. She thought this was kind of strange, but she listened. She leaned in and she listened. And she began to keep pace with this young boy. And by the time she had gotten to the mountaintop, her whole life had changed. From all that struggle that she had been walking through, all that struggle that she was feeling in her heart, she now began to see beauty. She had a sense of peace. She knew that there was so much more than what she had been seeing as she was charging to the mountaintop. I had a moment this day that I was in the hurriedness of getting ready to come here, and I'm doing all that I need to do, you know, that busyness that you have before you leave. And my cat was outside, and I went to let her in, and she looked at me, and she fell over on her belly. Fell over on her back with her belly up. And I went, oh, come on, please, just come on in. I've got places to go. And she rolls around. I finally got that I was going to have to go outside and pet her for a while and be in that moment. Just be in the moment with her, to be in the moment of love. Because that's what she was doing, was just loving the moment. Just living the moment. She's a reminder to me to stop and not worry about every little detail that I think I have to do before I get out of the house. In Arlington, just up the street, up the road, there was a high school teacher who chose to write personal letters to every one of his 443 students. He put $1 in an envelope and a personal letter, a personal note of encouragement to each one of them. Can you imagine what a difference that made? Is that walking with intention? I'm sure that as a teacher, he had wanted to make a difference in the lives of his students. Do you think he did that? Do you think this happened just this May? But do you think in 25 years, these young people are going to say, you know what my principal did for me? My principal thought enough of me to write a note. So we're in this walk, and we're in this walk together. We're in this walk, and we can do it in many ways. We can see the struggle of going to the mountaintop, or we can see the beauty of going up the path that will eventually get us to the mountaintop. So let us walk, not to arrive, but to experience a higher consciousness. Let us breathe, not to survive, but to be blessed. Let us move, not to escape, but to embody the very sacred that is around us. Every step is holy. Every step we make is holy. Every breath is a blessing. Every moment, a chance to remember who we truly are, a divine expression of love and light. So I'm going to invite you to use your power of imagination and paint a picture of where you want, how you want to walk, how you want to walk. What intention do you want to set in your life as you go about your daily routines? Think about that. Be in that moment. What would my life look like if at right this moment I set my intention and lived my intention to... So I'm going to say that again, and I'm going to invite you to go within and allow yourself to finish that statement. So, I invite you to allow yourself to be transformed. I walk with intention and I go forth to live my intention by. I live my intention by. What do you live your intention by today? Just think about it. For it is your possibility to be anchored in trust and love, to walk not just a steady path, but to have transformation in your walk. God bless you and namaste.